Ladies and gentlemen, you think the laws of the game were handed down on a stone tablet? Oh, you sweet, naive child. The football rulebook isn't some sacred text. It's a frantic, messy, heavily edited Google Doc that only gets updated after some genius, some master-level cheat, or some absolute madman exposes a loophole so gigantic you could drive a team bus through it. This sport wasn't designed, it was patched. It's a piece of software that's constantly being exploited by players who are smarter, faster, or just more willing to commit crimes in front of 80,000 people. These are the loophole legends, the players who didn't just play the game, they broke it, and in doing so, they forced the ancient, slow-moving suits at FIFA and IFAB to panic-write new rules just to stop the chaos. 1. The men who proved referees are blind. For decades, FIFA operated on one very quaint, very stupid assumption, that one man running around a 100-metre field could perfectly see and judge every single event from every angle, all at once. It was a lovely idea. It was also complete nonsense, and all it took to shatter the illusion were two of the biggest games of the era. First, let's talk about Thierry Henry, November 2009, a crucial World Cup playoff, France vs Ireland. The score is level, the tension is unbearable, and France is desperate. A ball loops into the Irish box and Henry, well, he doesn't just become a footballer, he becomes a part-time street magician. The ball is going out, but Henry decides to audition for the French national volleyball team. He controls it with his hand, not a subtle brush, a full-on NBA-style dribble. He palms it, settles it, and then, just to add insult to injury, he handles it a second time to tap it to William Gallas, who scores. The referee, standing miles away, allows it. France goes to the World Cup. Ireland implodes. The global outrage was so nuclear that FIFA, in a move of pure panic and please don't sue us energy, secretly paid the Football Association of Ireland $5 million in compensation. They called it a loan to build a stadium, which is the international football equivalent of sliding cash under the table and whispering, "We good?" Henry's hand proved on the world's biggest stage that a human referee simply cannot be trusted with a high-stakes decision. But just in case FIFA didn't get the message, the universe sent them Frank Lampard less than a year later. 2010 World Cup. Round of 16. England versus Germany. England are 2-1 down when Lampard hits an absolute screamer. It cannons off the crossbar and bounces down, crossing the goal line by roughly the distance of a small car. It was so clearly in, the entire stadium, half the people on the International Space Station, and probably your grandma watching at home all screamed, "Goal!" The referee stared into the middle distance. The linesman, apparently admiring the architecture. Goal disallowed. England crumbled and Germany went on to win 4-1. These two incidents, back to back, were so colossally, spectacularly embarrassing that FIFA's ancient resistance to technology finally shattered. They had no choice. They couldn't keep pretending the Emperor had clothes on when he was streaking naked across the pitch. And that's how we got goal line technology and eventually the video assistant referee. Not through proactive, intelligent governance, but because two massive, globally televised blunders made the entire sport look like a broken joke. Before the rule makers built a cage for them, goalkeepers were not just players, they were a different species, operating under a set of laws so laughably loose, they basically amounted to do whatever you want, mate. And nobody did whatever quite like Lee Richmond Roos. You've never heard of him, but this Welsh amateur legend is the entire reason a penalty box exists. See, before 1912, keepers could handle the ball anywhere in their own half. Roos, a notorious showman, looked at this rule and thought, how can I make this as annoying as possible? When his team was under pressure, Roos would sprint out, grab the ball and then just go for a walk. He'd stroll up the pitch, bouncing the ball like a basketball, sometimes travelling 40 or 50 yards to the halfway line while opponents just stared, utterly powerless. He was a goalkeeper, a defender, and a point guard all at once. He'd then launch a counter-attack from midfield with his hands. It was a tactical masterstroke, and it was so infuriatingly boring to watch that the rule makers had to invent the 18-yard box just to keep him chained to his goal. But even after they built the box, a new generation of geniuses found new ways to exploit it. Enter the Great Dane, Peter Schmeichel. Schmeichel was a master manipulator, and his first target was the back pass. In the early 90s, if you were under pressure, you just passed it back to the keeper, who would then pick it up. The attack was dead. The game reset. During their absurd Euro 92 triumph, Denmark used this tactic to paralyse opponents, sucking all the joy and life out of the game, one tedious back pass at a time. It was so deadly dull that IFAB banned keepers from handling a deliberate back pass, instantly forcing an entire generation of goalies to learn how to use their feet. But Schmeichel wasn't done. He found a new way to waste time, just holding the ball. The rules on possession were vague, so he'd cradle the ball like a newborn baby for 15, 20, 25 seconds. He'd bounce it. He'd look left. He'd look right. He'd consider the existential dread of existence. Then maybe he'd kick it. This blatant stalling directly led to the 6-second rule, forcing keepers to actually participate in the game. The laws didn't just contain keepers, though. They also had to protect them. The tragic death of Sunderland's Jimmy Thorpe in 1936 proved that. Thorpe gathered the ball, and in an era where it was legal, an opposing forward kicked him violently in the head and chest to challenge him. Thorpe died 4 days later. His death forced the creation of the fundamental rule: you cannot challenge the keeper when they have the ball in their hands. The modern goalkeeper is a creature of containment, an athlete sculpted by rules written in panic, 1 to stop a dribbler, 2 to stop a time waster, and 1, tragically, to stop a killer. Not all rule breaking happens in plain sight. Some is an art form, a dark, theatrical, deeply cynical art form designed to lie to the referee. I'm talking, of course, about diving. Simulation. The moment a 180-pound elite athlete suddenly develops the bone density of a wet paper towel, and the godfather of the modern game-changing dive is Rivaldo. 2002 World Cup. Brazil versus Turkey. Rivaldo's casually waiting to take a corner. Turkey's Hakan Ünsal, annoyed, kicks the ball towards him. It hits Rivaldo on the knee. A solid but completely non-threatening thud on his leg. Rivaldo reacts as if he has been shot by a sniper in the face. He collapses, clutching his head in agony, writhing on the turf like he's auditioning for a medical drama. The referee, completely duped by this Oscar-winning performance, pulls out a second yellow card and sends Ünsal off. It was so blatant, so cartoonishly dishonest, that FIFA was publicly shamed into action. They fined Rivaldo post-match, the first time in World Cup history a player was punished for successful simulation. It was the "we know you cheated and we're very disappointed" fine, and it kicked off the entire discussion about using video to catch liars. But if Rivaldo wrote the script, Arjen Robben perfected it. 2014 World Cup, Netherlands versus Mexico. Robben spent the entire match cutting inside, flailing, and collapsing at the slightest gust of wind. Finally, deep in stoppage time, he manufactures just enough contact to execute a dive of breathtaking aerodynamic perfection. The whistle blows. Penalty. The Netherlands score and Mexico is eliminated. The world lost its mind. Robben even half admitted to diving earlier in the game. This incident, on top of Rivaldo's legacy, was the final straw. It directly led to football associations like the English FA creating rules for retrospective bans. The new law basically said, "OK, you fooled the ref, but the 40 cameras didn't miss it. Enjoy your 2-match suspension." They had to invent a disciplinary time machine just to stop Arjen Robben. And then there's Emiliano Martinez. Dibu didn't just bend the rules, he put them in a psychological torture chamber. 2022 World Cup final, the penalty shootout. Martinez decides that being a goalkeeper isn't enough. He's going to be a performance artist, a master-level troll, and a villain from a 90s action movie. He's dancing on the line, he's grabbing the ball and throwing it away from the French taker. He's trash-talking, pointing, and systematically dismantling the composure of every man who walks to the spot. It was pure, distilled, high-potency gamesmanship. And it worked. He won Argentina the World Cup. IFAB, the game's ancient rule makers, watched this spectacle with sheer horror. They saw the future, a dystopian hellscape of dancing, shouting, time-wasting goalies, and they panicked. They immediately rushed out the Martinez rule for the 2023-24 season, explicitly banning keepers from unfairly distracting the taker, delaying the kick, or even touching the goalposts. Dibu Martinez was so effective at being an absolute menace that they had to legislate, "Please stop being interesting and just stand there." For most of its history, the football pitch operated with a kind of unspoken Vegas rule. What happens on the pitch stays on the pitch. It was a 90-minute bubble, separate from society, where the only law was the referee's whistle. Then Duncan Ferguson showed up and headbutted that bubble into oblivion. In 1994, Big Dunk, already carrying off-field assault convictions, was playing for Rangers when he decided to plant a full-on vicious headbutt on Wraith Rovers' John McStay. It was brutal, unmistakable, and the referee completely missed it. In the old days, that would be it. A suspension from the SFA, maybe. But because of Ferguson's record, the Scottish legal authorities did something unprecedented. They reviewed the video independently of the Football Association and charged him with criminal assault. Ferguson was found guilty and sentenced to 3 months in prison. He became the first and only British pro to be jailed for an on-field attack. The precedent was terrifying and clear. The whistle is not a shield. The pitch is not a sanctuary. Commit a crime in front of 60,000 people and you might just end up in jail. But if Ferguson proved the law could see onto the pitch, Zinedine Zidane proved it needed help seeing across it. The 2006 World Cup final, the grandest stage of all. Zidane, the greatest player of his generation, in his final ever match, walks past Marco Materazzi and finishes his career by driving his skull into the Italian's chest. It is one of the most violent, shocking acts in sporting history, and the referee, Horatio Elizondo, didn't see a thing. He was 50 yards away. The linesman missed it. The game was about to carry on with Zidane still on the pitch, until the fourth official, watching a video feed on the sideline, buzzed in. He informed the ref what had happened. Red card. End of a legend. This was the aha moment. It was controversial, technically illegal at the time, but it proved that video works. It was the official, undeniable birth of video assistance. The man in the chair was no longer a theory. He was an active participant, a ghost in the machine correcting a catastrophic error. The game also had to protect players from themselves. Fast forward to the 2014 World Cup. Uruguay's Alvaro Pereira takes a sickening knee to the head and is knocked out cold. He's rigid on the turf. The team doctor frantically signals for a substitution, but a disoriented, clearly concussed Pereira stumbles to his feet, wags his finger, no, and refuses to leave the pitch. He stayed on. It was a horrifying spectacle of bravery, but more so, of football's backward, gladiator-like approach to brain trauma. The global outcry forced IFAB to finally act, creating the trial for concussion substitutions, a rule that allows a player to be removed for a head injury without it costing the team one of their standard subs. It was the first time the rules officially gave a doctor the power to overrule a player's broken brain. Some of the rules aren't about high-stakes justice or criminal law, they're about basic housekeeping. They exist because, if left to their own devices, professional footballers will behave like unsupervised toddlers who have just eaten a bag of sugar. Case in point, Diego Forlan. You know that mandatory yellow card for taking your shirt off after a goal? That's not because FIFA are prudes who hate joy. It's because of Diego Forlan and his complicated wardrobe. November 2nd, 2002, Old Trafford. Forlan, in the middle of a legendary goal drought, finally smashes in a late winner. He is overcome with relief. He rips his jersey off in pure, unadulterated euphoria. And then, he can't get it back on. We're not talking a minor fumble. The early 2000s Nike kit was a complex two-layered system. As Forlan fumbled with the garment, the referee, who does not care about your fashion emergency, signalled for the match to restart. In a moment of pure comedic panic, Forlan ran back into play, still bare-chested, with his shirt crumpled in his hand. He was captured on film, chasing an opponent and making a tackle near the touchline, shirtless. The image was so profoundly ridiculous, such an astonishing breach of basic decorum, that the rulemakers decided, never again. They instituted the automatic booking, not really to stop the celebration, but to eliminate the farcical, time-wasting chaos of a man trying to put on a shirt in the middle of a live game. And then there's the vanishing spray. For decades, the free kick was a 10-minute negotiation. The attacking player places the ball, the defensive wall measures 10 yards and then creeps. They'd shuffle forward 2, 3, 4 yards, cutting the angle, daring the ref to notice. Roberto Carlos, with his physics-defying rockets, made this especially bad. Teams were so terrified they'd creep halfway to the ball. This caused endless arguments. The referee would pace out the 10 yards, the wall would move back, the ref would turn around, the wall would creep forward again. It was pathetic. The solution wasn't a complex new law, but a can of high-tech shaving cream, the vanishing spray, a simple, visual, do not cross this line drawn on the grass. We needed to invent temporary tactical graffiti to force a multi-million-pound defensive line to follow a rule that had existed for 100 years. That's football. The rulebook isn't just about explosive moments, it's also about policing the game's flow. It's a constant tactical war between players trying to stop momentum and referees desperately trying to protect it. You've seen this 1,000 times. A star player, think Lionel Messi, gets the ball. He beats one man, then a second. He's accelerating into space, and then tap. A cynical little kick to the ankle, not hard enough for a red, maybe not even a yellow. The ref blows the whistle. The attack is dead. The defence resets. For a decade, this was the only way to stop players who were simply too good. You couldn't foul them hard, so you just fouled them soft over and over. Messi was the prime target. He was subjected to a death by 1,000 paper cuts, ankle taps, jersey pulls, accidental trips. Collectively, it was a strategy to systematically break the game and punish genius. This was a problem the laws couldn't fix by adding a new rule. So they changed the interpretation of an old one. FIFA and referee organisations essentially sent out a patch update to their officials. Lower your caution threshold for persistent fouls. They trained refs to see the pattern. That third or fourth minor foul on the same player, that's a yellow card. It was a global instructional shift, a new piece of code in the referee's brain, designed almost entirely to protect creative players from the tactical foul. But stopping the game's momentum isn't just for outfield players. Goalkeepers are masters of the dark arts. We had Schmeichel holding the ball, but Gianluigi Buffon invented a far more subtle, infuriating tactic, the distribution fake. When his team was winning, Buffon would catch the ball, run to the edge of his box and start the big dramatic wind-up to throw it, only to stop. He'd pull it back. He'd look again. He'd fake the motion again. Each fake wasted a few more precious seconds, allowed his defence to reset and drove opposing strikers absolutely insane. It was a legal, brilliant and deeply unsporting way to bleed the clock. This got so bad that IFAB had to issue a clarification to Law 12, specifically targeting this. The new guidance essentially said, once you begin the motion to release the ball, you must release it. It's the don't fake me out, just play the game rule put in place because Buffon was too clever by half. And if you can't stop the flow with a foul or a fake, there's always the third option. Just scream at the guy in charge. The modern game had become a toxic mess of players surrounding, intimidating and screaming at referees. The poster child for this era? Bruno Fernandes. A fantastic player, but one who treats every single refereeing decision as a personal insult that must be debated by a committee of 11 angry men. This collective aggression was undermining the game's authority and turning matches into chaotic, arm-waving, screaming fests. The solution, now being rolled out in major tournaments, is the captain-only rule. It's simple. See a decision you don't like. Only your captain is allowed to approach the ref. Any other player who comes storming over, waving their arms, automatic yellow card. It's a rule designed to de-escalate, to end the mob-like pressure, and to finally get players to just shut up and play. Of all the rules we've talked about, two of the most important weren't about what happens during play, but about defining justice and value. And they both started because the old system was frankly a scam. Let's start with the most dramatic moment in football, the penalty kick. It didn't always exist. For that, we can thank Irish goalkeeper William McCrum, who in 1890 proposed the death sentence for a specific kind of cheating. His idea was ignored because it was considered too radical, too punitive. Then, an FA Cup quarter-final between Notts County and Stoke City happened. A Notts County player, faced with a certain Stoke goal, did the only logical thing. He deliberately, cynically, punched the ball off the goal line. An act of pure, unadulterated, I will not let you score and you can't make me. The punishment at the time, an indirect free kick. The entire Notts County team just lined up on the goal line, and the kick was, of course, useless. Stoke was cheated out of the cup. The public was so outraged by this professional foul that McCrum's crazy idea was immediately fast-tracked. The penalty kick was born, A rule created not from a place of sporting grace, but from a place of pure, unbridled spite against a cheat. It was the first time the rules acknowledged that a foul could be so cynical it deserved more than just a free kick. It deserved a near-certain goal, but this newfound respect for players' efforts on the pitch didn't translate to their wallets. For over 60 years, English football operated under a maximum wage cap. It didn't matter if you were Stanley Matthews or a third-string reserve. The most you could earn was £20 a week. It was an archaic, fundamentally unfair rule that treated players like property, not professionals. And the man who broke it was Jimmy Hill. In 1961, Hill, as chairman of the Professional Footballers Association (PFA), argued that players were being financially exploited. The clubs were making fortunes, the players were making a plumber's salary. Hill rallied the PFA membership, and they did the unthinkable. They threatened to go on a full-blown strike. The Football League, facing the catastrophic prospect of a Saturday with no football, was forced to capitulate. The maximum wage was abolished. In that instant, the entire economic landscape of the sport shattered. It was the Big Bang that created the modern, multi-million-pound contracts we see today. It was the moment footballers stopped being employees and started being assets. So, there you have it. The football rulebook. It's not a set of laws. It's a living, breathing, panic-written diary of every time a player was too smart, too violent, too devious, or just too plain weird for the game to handle. The sport isn't shaped by its governing bodies, it's shaped by the very chaos agents who keep trying to break it. So remember, every single line in that law book is there because someone somewhere was a massive problem. Subscribe to find out who the next problem is